everybody. Welcome to Nerd Wars Live. I am Andy Signor. Thank you so much for tuning in. As usual, we have a doozy for you today. I'm so excited. Everyone is raving all around online about release the Snyder Cut. I got into a couple beefs myself. People just assume I am not supportive of Zack Snyder or the Snyder Cut, saying it doesn't exist. I want to go again on record. I believe there is a cut of Snyder's vision. What that vision is, I think, is up for debate, but there's absolutely clearly a vision of the Snyder Cut. So that's not what this debate is about. The question for today is, let's say there is a cut that Snyder's made based off all the rumors that we've heard, things we know about Zack, all of those things. Could the Snyder Cut save Justice League? Now, before you hate at me, I think it's safe to say Justice League needed some fixing because everyone's demanding that Snyder do a new cut. So I don't think that's an unfair thing to say. So that's the question today. Because I personally, in my cards on the table, I find Justice League to be a very mediocre action movie. And given the heroes that are in it, it should have been just flames, the best thing that's ever made, way better than Avengers. And it was a little bit of a bummer for me. So we'll talk about why, how do we determine what makes it fixed, all of that stuff. And I brought in some fantastic fighters to do this today. So happy to have it. So here's how it's going to work. We have two special guests on one team because I locally, everyone wanted to hate on the Justice League. And so thankfully I got two awesome people who were there to come because I want to give us a fair fight. And I got one guy who just he got like 1 million views on hating the Justice League. So it's going to be perfect on both sides. Let's meet our fighters. First up on I do have here. First up on... here it is. There we go. These are all your fighters. I can get used to my controls. First up on the Alpha team, who will be defending Zack Snyder's honor and saying that Justice League can be fixed with the Snyder Cut. It's Uche. Uche, welcome to the show, man.
What's going on, man? How you doing? Appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm so happy to have you. I've checked out some of your work. I've seen you on Geeks and Gamers doing content over there, and you are a fan of the Snyder Cut. Safe to say, I mean, of Justice League, Snyder Cut, all that stuff.
Absolutely. Big fan.
Okay, good. So you believe that it can be, the Observant Lineman himself believes that this notorious cut can save Justice League.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's necessary for it to save Justice League. I think there was a vision behind the entire arc that Snyder and his DC universe was getting towards. And because of knee-jerk reactions, because of the climate and the expectations of the movie or the comic book movie industry at the time, people just weren't very attuned to the kind of story he was trying to tell. It was a 5-movie arc, and had he been allowed to go through his vision,
save your opening. Okay, yeah. I want you don't get into it too much yet. All right, so noted. So good. I love all that, but you're saying there's a vision there that would have saved this. Noted. Next to you, who's going to take the opposite side, Sam Jones of Nitpix. Welcome, Sam.
Hello. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
You are not a fan of Justice League, if I can get a sense based off the hour-long, not hour, but the long video you did got a lot of views, but you really just were not a fan. Is that safe to say?
Yeah, that's very safe to say. I would say it's the worst superhero film ever made.
Yes, you went there. You went that far. So we really did get both sides of the coin here. So welcome, Sam. I am going to hear you both. I don't think it's the worst superhero ever made, but we'll hear your side. All right, so Sam and Uche are going to be the main start us off, but helping them both, I'm so excited to have Ryan from RK Outpost. Welcome, Ryan.
Hey, what's going on, Andy? I'm really happy to be here, man. Thanks for reaching out and getting this together.
Yeah, you reached out, and when I was looking for people to defend Zack Snyder and the Snyder Cut's honor, you were first up, and I paid attention. So thank you for coming forward and doing this. You got a big army they're relying on you to do this right. Are you feeling confident you and Uche can do it?
Oh, I'm feeling great. We got the Snyder Army at our backs, 800,000 tweets strong. And, I think that Samuel, I think that I know how much you hated Justice League. You got 2 million views on that video. I absolutely hated Justice League, too, for a lot of the same reasons. So I think you're going to be maybe more on our side than you think. So I'm looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. And to help you, Samuel, I got a great fighter here in studio, one of our best. He's going to help midway through. Ryan and Adon here. Welcome, Adon, to the show. Hey, Adon.
Always good to be here.
Oh, I turned your mic off again.
There we go.
Now you're on.
Always good to be here. I'm happy to support the right cause. So I'm glad I could be on your side.
All right, well, here's the whole team. Here's
right
who's fighting.
cause.
We got Sam and Adon versus Uche and Ryan. You guys can see them all on screen now at the same time. This is going to be awesome. You guys in the comments can get involved. Check out the little instructions down below, and feel free to chime in. This is going to be a lot of fun. Oh, I wasn't getting your chats. Let me reset so I make sure I get your words coming in. Thank you to the guys who sent those super chats early on. I just had to refresh, so I lost a couple of them, but I saw Mary and a couple others showed some support early on. Thank you so much for that. All right, guys, let's do this. Happy to do this. Let's let it off with Alpha. Alpha team's going to start us off. Uche, you started already. Why? And I want to preface something. Let's talk about why Justice League needs to be fixed and how the Snyder Cut would do that. So when in your opening, sort of tell me what in your mind was not the perfectest about Justice League, and why do you believe Snyder has a mysterious cut that's going to solve those problems? Go ahead, Uche, lead us off.
All right, so you got to take a step back, right? Look at what happened to Justice League. Look at the entire process of that movie and its production from start to finish. First off, Zack Snyder, who through unfortunate circumstances, which was actually used as cover, was fired by WB midway through the process. The problem that we have with Warner Brothers as a production company is that they are too reactionary to the industry. And one of the things that really put the first kind of halt to the DCEU was the fact that they reacted to what was more of a critic, I would say it was more of a critic-induced drowning or bombing of Batman v Superman. That's where it started. And they reacted so abruptly to the way that movie was received by the critics that it changed the entire perception of where their universe was going. Like, Zack Snyder had a vision for a 5-story arc based around Superman. That arc started off with a Superman who was not necessarily he was new to the world of being a superhero. He was new to having the responsibility that he had in Man of Steel. He was still learning how to bring himself out to the public. And when you move forward from that, the arc was going to take him into he was going to evolve into the Superman that we more are aligned with from the comic books. And that vision was only about 25% realized or 33 or 15% realized by the time Batman v Superman came around. And with the knee-jerk reaction you got from the audience, which was divisive. The movie was divisive, of course. There are people who love it. There are people who hate it. But because of how the industry was structured and because of the trends of the industry, Marvel and the MCU formula was the formula that won the day. And anything related to comic books and anything related to fantasy, they wanted to see a more formulaic, connected universe. And that made Snyder and a lot of the people in DC have to change course abruptly to suit what Warner Brothers wanted. And when they saw the opportunity to get rid of Zack Snyder and bring in Joss Whedon, that's where, the entire Justice League film went off the rails. I mean, you got to know that they replaced 30 to 45% of that movie solely because of the tone that they wanted to kind of follow that the MCU was running with. And the MCU was doing its own thing. And instead of allowing Zack Snyder to continue his vision and to do it the way that they knew he would do it when they hired him, because you have Watchmen, you have 300, you know what his style is, you know what kind of director you're getting, and you know where his talents lie in that he's going to make a grittier, darker representation of whatever film or whatever characters he's dealing with. And they gave him that job and they gave him the responsibility. So if you're going to say you're a director-driven studio, then allow your director to finish his vision, for better or worse. Can we sit here and say that this movie would have been, can we all sit here and say wholeheartedly this movie would have been worse had they just let Zack Snyder, develop it the way he saw fit? We all know what the details are. And we see a vastly better movie than what we got in the theaters.
Well, let's see what Sam thinks. Would we have seen a worse version? Sam, I asked that question to you. Would the Snyder Cut fix Justice League? Let's hear your thoughts.
Well, I don't know. No one knows. That's partly why I think this whole thing is being fueled so strongly. It's more curiosity, I think. Even people who are on the fence, who aren't necessarily, massive Snyder fans or even massive DC fans, are curious to see what this alternative cut of this film looks
Curiosity.
like.
Did you see the renders of Darkseid? Did you see the rest of Cyborg's story arc that was, I mean, clearly going to be the heart of the movie? I mean, these are things that Snyder's been letting out now for 2 years, and you just see a movie that clearly had better concepts behind it than what we got. I mean,
we're curious.
That's undeniable at this point.
I want you. I love the passion. Keep it. But let's at least get him as Sam. Get your opening remarks in, and then Uche, you can roast him all you want. But go ahead, Sam. Keep going.
Well, I mean, I would argue that we don't know if any of that is true. Snyder can be, saying anything about this film. He has not made an official statement, and that's, I agree with you totally. Warner Brothers are totally in the wrong. They hired this guy to make a film. That's a piece of art. Yet they changed their mind when the film was apparently almost 100% shot, and then got someone else to redo his vision. But we don't know what his vision is, because the film isn't out. And the decision the studio made was not to release Zack Snyder's vision. Maybe they were pandering to Marvel fans, maybe they were pandering to focus groups and other things, or maybe...
Focus groups?
Well, yeah, I mean, they do that in Hollywood all the time. I mean, that's the only argument I can see, unless Warner Brothers saw the film and just had no faith in it, and that's why they completely wrecked it. I mean, they have wrecked this film, and I'm curious to see what Snyder's vision would be, but we don't know what it is. And we can all sit here and say, oh yeah, Snyder was planning this 5-arc thing with Superman, and it was going to be so great, and he was going to do all these things with Cyborg, but we don't know. There isn't actual evidence to say that Snyder's version, his cut, is going to be superior or better, or, is going to be a great film. And I think all of us are imagining a Snyder cut that solves all the problems. All of us are imagining this wonderful film that fulfills our wishes and desires. And we want to see that edit. But what if the truth is that Zack Snyder's cut is dark, cynical, bland, boring? What if it's arguably worse? Would the fan base accept that?
All right. Well, I want to break it open to everybody, but I see everybody chomping at the bit because I know there is. I see you all. I see Ryan and Don here are both like, let me in, coach. Let me in. Here's what I want to hear everybody, because I know that we do know a little bit more about what Zack would have done. To be fair, I think Sam, we do know some of the things he's talked about it. So I imagine you're about to hear that. But I also want to hear from you, Sam, and I want to thank Mary because she just gave it a level. Seems to me like Sam just conceded the argument by admitting he didn't know. I have to agree with her. It's fair to say we don't know, but I need to hear why the fact that we don't know. What do we know about Snyder, and what's your argument to sort of cement this fact that there's no way Snyder's cut, because of X, Y, and Z, could solve the problems of Justice League. So as we get back into it, Sam, make sure you get into that. But I want to go back, Uche, or you can allow. I see Ryan's ready to chomp in too. Uche or Ryan, I defer. Who wants to chime in next? But let's hear more thoughts as to what Sam just said.
Yeah, so just really quick, Sam, I watched your video, a while ago. Now it's way up at 2 million views, and I agreed with so much of what you said. But a lot of the things we do know about Zack Snyder's movie and what it was going to be, not necessarily just from Zack Snyder, but from Jay Oliva, from Joss Whedon, what he's told us that he changed from different actors and saying that they were part of things that were changed. For example, we'll start at the beginning of Justice League. A couple things that you absolutely hated. You hated that opening sequence with Superman with the camera phone. That was all Joss Whedon. It's all Joss Whedon. You can tell because you can tell to the reshoots, and because Joss Whedon himself told us that it was him. Then we transitioned.
And the actor as well, the main actor in that opening Batman scene, he said that was all Joss Whedon. I'm aware that the sequences that were changed are a lot worse. Because the film was not intended to be made in the way that it was presented. But I would also argue that taking on board like all these things and all these articles about what it could have been, and even Snyder himself, he directed the film. He's obviously going to hype it up. He's obviously going to oversell his cut of the film. And I think it's important that we understand that Warner Brothers are a big studio that do know a lot about films as well. And though we can easily write this narrative about them pandering to Marvel fans and just completely destroying this film for money, which I could accept.
I don't think it was about pandering to Marvel fans. I think that the market, the industry that they're in at the time, the trends of the market were trending heavily towards the MCU. The MCU was 10 almost 10 movies in.
So let's talk about what's trending. I'm going to jump in. I'm sorry to interrupt you on this, but when Man of Steel came out and Batman vs. Superman came out, and you made the argument about the critics, hitting on those movies.
Yeah, that's where it started.
I know countless people that were fans of DC, and they will watch those movies and go, "Why did this come out? Why is it so dark and gritty?"
And on the opposite side, I know tons of DC fans who saw those movies and call Man of Steel a masterpiece.
Exactly, but
they call Batman v Superman a near masterpiece.
I mean, and I'm going to say it.
I want to make sure it's clear. Your point being, it depends how many people are saying that, is what you just
said. Yes.
And it would be fair to argue based off box office receipts, it was more people were not a fan than were. Is that what you're trying to get at?
Yeah, there's more people that are not a fan. I don't.
How do you figure that? One movie did 800 million. One movie did 700 million. I mean, by any other production company standards, that's a great. That's a great ticket haul.
And I just admit it. I don't count the receipts. I count the opinions of people voicing it. The receipts is people are going out there because they're giving it hope. They wanted to see a good movie. But walking out and being disappointed, that's where that counts.
I don't want to get hung up on this. Warner Brothers themselves have admitted that this was not the success they wanted it to be. So we can get in the weeds on that all you want, but let's all be honest to each other.
Yeah, of course.
This was not the success they wanted it to be. Just like so let's be clear on that. So I hear you both, but I don't. But go ahead, Adon. Go where you're going, because I don't want to get lost in that.
But that's the thing. When we're talking about that, we can't include that in there. What we include is that his vision. You said it yourself. He's done about 35%, 2/5 of what his vision was, focusing on Superman to bring this in. That is almost, if not close to half of the entire franchise that what he wanted to build around this. And at that point, people were not happy. Not just critics, people in general. Now,
what do you mean, from the Justice League in production?
Well, we'll put it as it is. And people are scared at that point. Now you're going to invest over half of your franchise into this vision that is not really. Everybody keeps giving it a chance, but now you're failing at these chances.
You got to keep in mind as well, Suicide Squad had just been tanked. Yeah. Batman v Superman had just been tanked. And
but
then
they both made a lot of money.
Watch this 3-hour cut by Snyder, and I've never heard a studio do this to a film before. I've never seen a studio rip it apart and completely change the original vision. And my argument is not that Warner Brothers were justified in this decision in any way. As a filmmaker, I completely deplore it. I think it's disgusting. But my argument is that this Snyder cut, to a lot of fans who are disheartened by Justice League, to a lot of people who are upset by Justice League, to a lot of people, they think this Snyder cut is the answer and is going to be somehow save it, somehow be this masterpiece film.
I don't think that people are thinking of it I don't think that that's how people are perceiving it. I don't think the Snyder Cut is perceived as something that is going to save Justice League. I think people just genuinely want to see the real movie. Just because it's almost like, how could you disrespect a man so badly that you don't allow his actual vision to see the light of day, even though he finished it? Well, near finished it. We don't know exactly where it is, but we know that it was a mere probably 5 to 10% out of completion.
Well,
and how do you take a guy who has already dedicated 2 films, and you got to also understand, he wanted to take it slower with the DCEU. He wanted to start slower with the DCEU. Warner Brothers panicked because they saw the Avengers and they said, we need that now. And so they pushed him to bring, they pushed him into making Batman v Superman kind of the way it was made, into a semi-ensemble movie. And because they wanted to push straight forward into Justice League. Everyone knows that you want to at least get some backstory and build some character arcs with your supporting cast. We all know Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman. You can go ahead and introduce them, but you can't just throw in Flash, throw in Cyborg, throw in Aquaman, and call it Justice League, and none of these characters have been introduced. But Warner Brothers wanted their Justice League. They wanted it now. And so he had to. We all know that scene in BVS was probably never intended. It was never intended to be in the movie because they were going to introduce them at that point. That was shoehorned in, and it's obvious that the studio's interference did far more damage to the film than any vision that he has put out there for the public to ponder on at this point.
So just to clarify for me, the fact that they killed off the main character he wanted to focus on, that was his choice or the studio's decision?
I mean, that was
Zack's choice.
That was Zack Snyder's choice.
Yeah.
But
the
nobody said that the movie was going to be perfect. But at the same time, he also acknowledged that wasn't the real Doomsday. That was just a Doomsday because Krypton was able to manufacture these kind of war machines. They backed that up with some EU explanations in the Krypton show, as they already made a Doomsday in the Krypton show. And then if you look at the comics, I mean, they have one Doomsday, but they also have been able to multiply and duplicate the Doomsday gene. Superman caught the Doomsday virus. He became Doomsday. So Doomsday is not just one singular beast, even though his origins were in the Death of Superman comic book.
Oh, there's only one Doomsday in the comic. It's just that he evolved into a virus. And there was a whole thing, but I'm not going to get dragged up into that part.
Yeah.
Right, you made a good point. Here's where I'm trying to get stuck on because
can I just respond to something really quickly?
Sure.
So Zack Snyder has been basically, he's not been trusted by Warner Brothers seemingly from Batman v Superman as well. Yeah. So from as early as then.
Yeah.
So
if you've seen Batman v Superman's the ultimate cut, it's far better and it's in a complete different order than the actual theatrical version. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, no, I mean, I personally think that the director's cut did make a huge difference to me, even though I don't hate Batman v Superman nearly as much as like so many other people. I'm a huge Batman fan. There's loads of scenes in there that I dig. I actually like Jesse Eisenberg quite a lot as Lex Luthor.
Same here.
Yeah, but my thing is, that means that throughout the whole way he was making Justice League, Warner Brothers was still on this guy's case. He was not given creative freedom. So even if we get this Snyder cut, it's still going to be heavily, he's not been given that freedom to make the story he wanted to make, even in the Snyder cut. So will it be his full vision anyway? Will Snyder cut be Zack Snyder's intended vision? Or will there still be more stuff that's been jammed in there?
Yeah. So, I want to say Andy made a video the other day, and he got a little bit of crap for it. But he was right when he talked about, because like Uche has said, the original thing, we've got this confirmation from Kevin Smith and others that it was originally supposed to be a 5-movie plan. After, in the middle of the critical reaction to BVS, they said they wanted to shorten it to 2-part Justice League. So when Zack he knew that going in, so they had to finagle the script a little bit and go with it was 3 hours and 15-minute long cut of Justice League. That is the Snyder cut. This rewrite, that incorporates what he wanted to do in 3 into 2, but a really long first act. And they also wanted to go away from the nightmare sequence because initially that was going to be the plan. We were going to have Superman succumb to the anti-life equation, and we're going to have that nightmare scenario. Batman, Flash, and Cyborg. We're going to go to the past and fix things. That was going to be all in the 3rd movie, but
time travel.
Yes, but we had to shorten it up. So that 3-hour, 15-minute cut is Zack Snyder's cut. We know we've got confirmation from multiple sources that it's done, including Jason Momoa. And what I think the biggest problem with Justice League, the theatrical cut that we got, once they said we want it trash, we want it less than 2 hours, and we want to brighten it up. We have misplaced humor. We have tints that don't make any sense when you look at the film, because it wasn't filmed. It wasn't supposed to look that way. Mm-hmm. They had to lighten all this stuff up. You have that red hue that was not supposed to be that way at the end scene. The costumes were specifically designed to be in a certain light.
Muted light, like a muted filter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and all of these things happen because they decided they didn't want that Snyder cut. Obviously, we had the tragedy involving Zack's daughter, which resulted in him not being able to do what they wanted him to do, whether he would have wanted to do it anyway. and Joss
Which,
Whedon comes
from
in
what
and
he's been saying, it seems like he wouldn't have wanted to do that anyway.
and it's a slap in the face. I wouldn't want to.
What I want to get down to as well is where does Joss Whedon fit into this narrative? Because Joss Whedon didn't want to do Avengers 3. He essentially, left Marvel based on artistic integrity. And, Zack and Josh have said that they're friends or, they respect each other. So I don't understand how a filmmaker like Joss Whedon, who has love and respect for comic books and for film and for art, could come in and look at this, vision that Zack Snyder's put together and make huge changes. Whether he's doing that purely for money, or could there be an argument that Joss Whedon himself saw flaws in this film and genuinely tried to make it better?
I think that's a good question. I think there's a lot of pressure from the studio. It was clear that they wanted Joss to come in and make a Marvel light. That's what they wanted it to be. You have this completely misplaced humor from Batman. Oh, somebody's definitely bleeding. Come on, man. Come on, bro. That's not Batman. So you have the beginning scene with Superman. It's clear they wanted to make it Marvel light. They misjudged their audience because they had, even though critics were hating on it, people were still going to see these movies at a higher rate than the beginning of the MCU. Now, whether you want to argue if it was still a failure because you had higher profile superheroes, you can definitely say that. But when you look at the start of the MCU versus the start of the DCU, DCU is making more money. And they went and made this change, and Justice League flopped. Justice League flopped hard. There was a reaction to that because I think that a lot of people that they had hooked on this vision, this Zack Snyder vision, those fans, they went to see this and they're like, "What is this?" That's how I was. I was opening night. Yeah. I had my Wonder Woman hat on, my Justice League shirt on. I'm ready to roll. Went to AMC theaters, got the stupid little promotional drink, right? Paid like $15 for it, whatever. And I went and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
I was
like,
just sitting in the theater.
But that's what I'm saying.
I think we all felt a bit like that. I think we can all relate to that. And I do think that the campaign to release the Snyder Cut is in some way to try and, feel better about that and to reclaim those feelings again and to maybe feel as if there is a bit more hope in Snyder and to feel as if, the film is less disappointing. We can reclaim our sense of joy in these films and reverse that feeling of shock and horror when we're sitting in the cinema. But I feel as if the dream and the idea of it itself is a lot more powerful than what this cut is actually going to say and do, because I just don't really buy the idea that a studio would rip apart a totally decent film like in the way that they did. And I don't really believe that Joss Whedon, someone who I personally respect and has proven to have artistic integrity and has said no to money before, I don't understand why he would take on this project unless maybe you could argue it was a favor because he was, friends with Snyder and he felt bad for the guy because of obviously what happened, which is awful. But I feel as if Whedon felt as if he could make the film better. I feel that that's what makes sense to me, but I can't prove that, obviously. But we can't prove any of this. It's all hypotheticals.
Well, the reason why there is actually evidence out there as to why he actually took the Justice League job. He made a stipulation that he would do the Justice League job if they allowed him to make Catwoman. I mean, not Catwoman, Batgirl.
Yeah, Batgirl. Which is something he'd always wanted to do.
Which is something he always wanted to do. And once the movie flopped, they were like, "You're fucking fired." Like, what do you mean, Batgirl? Did you look at these numbers? Get the hell out of my office!
Disgusting, isn't it?
And I would just say one thing. You asked, I've never seen a studio tear apart a film and give us something like this. I would say I would say Warner Brothers, I would say the theatrical cut versus the director's cut of Batman vs. Superman
it's not even slightly close to what they did to Justice League.
I'm not saying it's like what they did to Justice League, because you know as well as I do, you're admitting right now that you know how much different it is and how Zack Snyder's vision would have been realized.
I don't
All
think
right.
it's that different.
But it's not.
I
But you just told
compare
me.
it.
But
I would
Samuel,
compare it to
you just told me it's nothing close.
Daredevil, the director's cut versus the theatrical cut.
All right. Well, I would say that they cut out a sixth.
Daredevil.
Have you guys seen the Daredevil director's cut?
Yeah.
Have you seen it?
I can't comment on it. I don't know.
I didn't even know there was one.
No, yeah, this is the thing.
I've heard it's good though.
Daredevil is a better movie than Justice League.
Woo!
I believe you. Justice
The
League was
theatrical
trash.
cut, it's a lot better. It's got much better
As a
ideas,
whole, he's
themes. It's got better cinematography.
Wow, I
It's
didn't
got
think-
better
yeah.
acting in it. It's got better writing in it.
Even with the
Every
playground
aspect
scene,
of-
it's still better.
Well, yeah, no, it is. It is arguably the better action scene than anything you can pull apart from Justice League. But the director's cut makes it a lot better, but it didn't change how people felt about it. The director's cut completely adds another subplot. It restructures the whole scene. The whole scenes, things work completely different in this director's cut, but it didn't change how we all feel. I'm bringing up Daredevil, and you're all like, "Ugh." But like, I also would like
you just
to.
made a point by how we reacted to it.
Yeah. I would also talk as well about the sort of mob mentality at the moment that's going on with the Snyder Cut. I mean, Andy was saying that, you know, he's been getting a lot of like kind of attack about what he's been saying about this Snyder Cut. And I do feel as well that you guys aren't entitled to this cut.
Why
You-
not?
Okay.
You're not. It's not. It
I
doesn't.
paid money to go watch Justice League, so
You wasted them.
I invested in a product that did not show me a return that was worth my damn time. So you can make it up by putting it on HBO Max and winning the streaming wars before it even starts.
But does Warner Brothers deserve? Does Warner Brothers deserve that after what they've done?
The
Do they
fans
deserve to
deserve it.
win streaming? The fans. Here's the thing: is that you guys feel as if this film, you're entitled to it. You know, you deserve
No,
to
we
see
don't-
it.
You're putting a lot of words in my mouth right
We
now.
deserve it. We deserve it based on the utter monstrosity.
That was funny. One
That
of you
they
was like,
allowed.
"No, don't," and then Uche's like, "Yeah, I do."
And that's where the mob
I
mentality.
didn't say we're
and
entitled
that's
to it.
where
I say we deserve it.
I think that's where it comes from, because these films aren't just films anymore. These superhero films aren't like something you go to watch for a bit of escapism. These films are deeply embedded in our culture. They're deeply embedded into our identities and our sense of selves. And before we used to attack each other about politics or religion, whereas now we're attacking people about superhero films and our opinion on these movies.
We've attacked each other about comic books and comic book pop culture since we were little. I mean, when I was a little kid, I was reading DC Comics, and me and my friends would argue about DC and Marvel in the classroom in 5th, 6th, 7th grade.
Tim
It's just
Burton
transcended
said-
from one part of the society to another.
Tim Burton said in an interview when he was doing the Batman movie, he said, "Anyone that knows me knows that I would never read a comic book." Those are the words he said. If a filmmaker said that today, think of the amount of abuse they would get.
Why? Why is that? Because Marvel set the narrative with how they presented comic book movies.
Not
You saw
necessarily.
nothing but
Think of
social
X-Men.
media posts of people like Chris Evans reading Captain America comics, Brie Larson reading Captain Marvel comics. You see those, and there's millions of people following these guys online. People associate comic book culture right now with Marvel comics when it comes to anything on TV, anything in the theater. So the entire atmosphere of that is what every other perspective of comic book movies is getting judged on. And the only movie that's been able to really break that trend has been Joker. DC.
Well, my point is that the comic book movies are at a point now where people get very angry and people can get very abusive online when someone disagrees with them about a film or when things go wrong. And I think that this culture that's happened through I don't know what it is, maybe technology, but my point with this is that I think we all need to take a little bit of a step back
What?
Understand
For what?
that
It's fun
these
to argue
are
about
Hold on,
comics.
let him finish.
entertainment. Yeah,
getting
it's
to a
fun
point.
to argue, it's fun to debate. I'm enjoying myself right now. But when it gets to death threats, when it gets to, personal abuse, when
Who's
it
threatening
gets
to kill
to
nobody?
I've gotten threatened to kill by DC fans. We actually had to get a armed security guard at Screen Junkies because we made fun of Jared Leto's Joker. True story. They said, I'm going to come stab you in the belly. It was really scary. We had to get security to guard us because DC, no other fandom caused that kind of stress. Then, granted, we were Screen Junkie, Marvel junkies, right? So we just didn't like these movies. But I can attest.
He threatened to stab you because of arguing about a movie. I don't
Yes.
believe him.
Yeah. No, I mean, he needed help, but
But I
we
mean,
called the
who's gonna
police and it
try?
happened.
I get death threats all the time. I mean, it's fairly normal
And
for
that's
me.
terrible. And that's
No, it's
terrible.
okay. I'm okay with it, but I'm not trying to sound like a victim or anything. My point is that we all feel entitled to good movies and good products, and we all feel as if what happened with Justice League was a personal attack on ourselves. And I think we need to understand that this is a product, and Warner Brothers own that product, and they decided to release it in the way they did, and it was a bad movie. And following around alternate cuts and trying to negotiate and trying to deal with Warner Brothers, we're consumers. We consume these movies. We've consumed Justice League, and we weren't happy. And if you buy a product that you're not happy with, you're not going to get aggressive online. You're just not going to buy from them again. And I think the message we're sending to Warner Brothers is we're okay if they mess with a movie as long as they release a director's cut or as long as they do some other way to appease us.
No,
Because
I don't think
we will carry on seeing these DC films even though they have personally upset you and offended you. And the side
I haven't been personally upset by anything DC's done outside of Justice League. I mean, Suicide Squad sucked, but hey, you don't see people screaming for a director's cut of Suicide Squad.
Well,
There were
Yeah.
people wishing more for
That
Jared
shit
Leto.
ain't trending around the world like Snyder
Give
cut
him a
is. That's
chance.
a different beast.
Well, all right, so I want to wrap because I hear a lot of points, and here's where I stand because I think we're all in agreement that a Snyder cut is better than what we got. But
There we go.
But the problem is, and that's where we're stuck with because I need Sam and Don to tell me again. You get one more shot. Will it fix it? Because the problem is making a turd slightly less turdish doesn't not make it a turd, right? So I need to hear a little bit more of like, sure, it's going to be better, a little bit. Why? And why is it actually going to fix the problems that we all are admitting Justice League failed on? I want to go back to Sam and Don. Feel free because you're running out of time here. Why do you feel like this? Aside from the fact of I understand what your feelings are on Snyder, but like. And what it means, but like specifically, what is it about Snyder's work? What have you heard that you think would not actually fix the problems that we're complaining about?
Okay.
Well, sorry. Okay, I'll be quick, I promise. What I'll say is that the points I've made today are that we don't know what this film is. We don't know if it will be better. It might even be worse. But the evidence that we have is that a huge studio didn't like the Snyder Cut, filled with experts, executive producers. Josh Whedon changed the cut, either because you could argue again that this guy wanted to make Batgirl, or he wanted the money, but he, as a respected filmmaker, thought it was okay to change it. We know that Zack Snyder was already under the thumb of Warner Brothers, and this was not the vision he wanted to be. But my most damning point is that if there is any scene from Zack Snyder's Snyder Cut in the Justice League movie, then we can already tell what kind of film it's going to be. Because aside from the opening montage, which was apparently shot by Whedon, there is very little within Justice League that even works. There's on a scene-by-scene level, on a dialogue-by-dialogue level. Now, the only argument that this new Snyder Cut, could potentially be better is based on what we've heard from bits and pieces and pieces of evidence and interviews that are given by Snyder and people who like Snyder and Josh Whedon trying to get off the hook. we don't know what this film is going to be. So we can never say with certainty that this film is going to be better than the one we've got, because we don't know.
Don, did you want to make any comments to wrap up your side of the room?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So when he goes into the production of making the movie for the Justice League, they already had the idea that they were going to be doing those other movies for Wonder Woman and Aquaman and the other movies that are getting postponed right now. So they already have a feel of what they want to go with those other films. But Zack Snyder, proven through the previous films that he's done, will want to do a different feel for those characters. And I don't know anybody on here, unless you can tell me right now, did you not like Wonder Woman?
Zack Snyder.
Yeah, Zack Snyder was heavily involved in that.
Yeah, he was heavily involved.
Snyder were heavily involved in Wonder Woman.
In lighthearted.
And he also was involved with Aquaman. James Wan met with Zack Snyder multiple times about Aquaman.
But
he had his hands in most of the DCEU, so they were on the same page as to the overall course of characters and where they wanted to take it.
He's right. What's your point, though?
My point is the feel for those characters in those movies were not like the same kind of feel that Zack Snyder does for his films. All his are like gritty and dark.
Film that had more than one character in it.
So just because you talk to someone doesn't mean that you're going to take their advice.
They did take his advice.
At one point. Like, at what point is it that, like, can you say this is Zack Snyder advice?
To echo, Wonder Woman is not as good in Justice League as she is in Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
Let's be clear.
Because it's not a Zack Snyder movie.
Exactly, because it's not a Zack Snyder movie.
But that's what I'm talking about.
Here's where
that's in BVS.
Here's where I'm confused. Why do you say that? I mean, she's overly sexualized, which is a total Zack Snyder trick. Why are you? Sucker Punch, yes, like he's done that a lot. But why are you saying that none of the Wonder Woman stuff is Zack Snyder? I don't believe that for a second.
Not to the extent that Joss Whedon does it. That's why Joss Whedon over-sexualizes to the nth degree with his movies.
So I will specifically point to the over-sexualization when Wonder Woman gets down and you see her ass. That was Joss Whedon's cut. When Flash does the thing where he falls on her, just exactly like they did in Age of Ultron, that was Joss Whedon. That was a Joss Whedon reshoot. Like, those are the over-sexualization things you're talking about. Like, that was Joss Whedon. I didn't
bring up the over-sexualization. I talk about, like, the grittiness, the lack of humor, the fact that, she's not as light. The fact of the matter is, I can't picture a Justice League movie where they're trying to expand and keep the movies that we got afterwards that we enjoyed. Aquaman, we enjoyed Wonder Woman, way better than Justice League, and then they got better reviews than Batman versus Superman. But then you bring in a Zack Snyder movie that is going to be on the trend of Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, and then you're going to keep that trend going, and then you expand into these lighter films and then bring them back?
No, I think, look, this is the thing. This is why you can't use the word fix. It's not about fix. It's about give us the actual vision. Give us the actual story. That's what changes the entire perception of Justice League from the outset. Is that, look, for instance, Batman v Superman. If you watched the Ultimate Cut and you watched the theatrical cut next to each other at the same time, these movies are cut in order in a completely different configuration than what it was originally planned when compared to the director's cut. There's 30 minutes of the movie missing. There's an entire subplot that you have that is literally cut off after the first 20 minutes in the theatrical cut. And you never hear another peep about that entire story arc, and it's actually a crucial story arc to the development and the twists that occur later in the movie.
Like, the only people that like the Batman v Superman director's cut are Snyder fans. No one likes it other than Snyder fans.
How do you know that? How do you know that?
Like, it's not like it came out and
everybody only likes.
Let's ask the commenters. Commenters who are watching, did you prefer the Batman v Superman director's cut? Go ahead. Tell me yes or no.
30 minutes.
It changed it, but it
you
didn't
take
make
30
it a
minutes
better
out
movie.
of any movie. If you take 30 minutes out of Avengers, is it still a good movie? Is it the same movie?
Adding 30 minutes does not always make a better movie. Sometimes it makes a bloated movie.
Well, and for anybody who's seen the director's cut of BVS, it's not a bloated movie. It's actually a much better movie.
It gives some rationalization to Clark Kent, which I was glad they gave Superman something to do, but it still didn't make Superman that much better. He's just going and investigating more. There's some extended scenes. Like, I know what you're talking about. Yes, it doesn't change it so drastically that I'm suddenly like, oh, wow, they fixed Batman v Superman.
Well, this is the thing. People talk about Superman being broken, but he wasn't. This is This is a Superman that is a new youth. He's a rookie. He is a young, still finding his own identity superhero. He's 2 years into being Superman. Everything that you see now as Superman is 80 years of accumulated story and character development. So how can you expect that out of one hero who's been on the job for a year and a half?
I think the Batman vs Superman director's cut argument is flawed because it's an entirely different argument. Batman vs Superman wasn't taken by a different director. It wasn't like messed around.
Studio interference was still a heavy presence,
but it wasn't nearly as strong. Like,
Here's something I agree with you with, Sam, is that it is a little bit different argument. Just like I would say, I don't quite know what your whole fan entitlement argument is when this is a talk about will this fix Justice League. So I get where you're coming from, but as far as the movie that we got, we can go down the line. Like I said, I watched your video, a lot of your criticisms, and so many of them are directly related to the Joss Whedon reshoots. So and that's why I don't really understand how I know what you're trying to say, that we can't definitively prove until you see it in front of your face. You don't have definitive proof, and if that's the way you want to go, I get that. However, so much of the things that you find detestable and that make Justice League the worst superhero movie you've ever seen are directly related to the Josh Snyder reshoots and the uneven tone throughout the entire movie due to those reshoots.
All right, and I'm going to use that as your closing. You guys have done a great job. I think Sam and Don, you're still in the ropes as you do your closing here. And to answer the question, yes, most people preferred the Batman v Superman director's cut, and there's a lot of people who just say it sucks no matter what. It seems to be sort of the
and those are the people who just ain't fans.
Yeah. Well, exactly, because fans are the only people that liked the director's cut, as I said.
So what's a fan? What do you call somebody who likes a movie that? What, are they a fan or not? I mean, if you like a movie, you're a fan of the movie.
No, I'm saying people hated Justice League. It's not like this Snyder Cut is going to change that. In the same way, people who hated Batman v Superman. It's not like you show them the director's cut and they're going to suddenly like love the film and think it's like significantly better. There are people who like it a little bit more, but if you have problems with Batman v Superman and then you watch the director's cut, you're not going to have all those problems removed. Most of the problems with Batman v Superman were to do with the tone. They were to do with decisions
more with editing necessarily than tone, because the movie jumped around from too many spots, almost in a meanwhile style from a comic book, and it confused people. They lost track of where the story was going. In the director's cut, it flows from front to back. It even adds another extra 2 or 3 minutes to a scene at the beginning that actually gives you a lot more, gives Superman a much bigger presence in the film because it starts with him and it flows through. I mean,
all right, well, I don't know, Sam, let's let Sam and Don, any final thoughts before I make this verdict?
I just wanted to say my thing on the entitlement is more just on the extension of the idea that the Snyder Cut is something that exists in people's heads. It's not necessarily like the answer to the problem of Warner Brothers studio interference, not necessarily the answer to all the problems with Justice League. And I do think as well, it might be better for the community as well to just, imagine what this film could be. I feel like if this Snyder Cut does get released, people are going to be disappointed. I honestly believe it's not going to be the masterpiece that everyone wants it to be. We're not good. I doubt we're going to see like Superman in a black costume, like in the way that the comics. I doubt we're going to see. Like a Cyborg's character arc in like this new way that changes the way the character is seen. I doubt it's going to have an ending that makes sense. I still think probably Superman's gonna come in at the end and just like be the most powerful person in the room and save the day, and that the main goals of the Justice League characters is going to be to resurrect Superman.
Well, yeah, he'll do it. He does it in a black suit. You are correct. All right, that's it. Time. Ding, 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 ding. Boom, 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 boom. Bravo, everybody. Great fight. Bravo and Alpha, both of you. Good job. All right, I see a lot of feedback in the comments of who they think wins. My answer is pretty clear, but go ahead, put your comments now. Team Bravo or Team Alpha, based off of your arguments here. I want to hear them down. Comment now. Vote, vote, vote before I say what I did. I think you both actually did a good job. I do. But I do think one of you sort of led the fight a little much more. I was waiting to hear more of why, based off of what we know with rumors and Zack Snyder himself, what do we know that sort of would clearly show us that this can't be fixed? What are the problems in Justice League that are so bad that they can't be fixed? And I think Alpha Team did a really good job in sort of pointing out to me and even educating me that Joss Whedon was responsible for a lot of the things that were problematic with Justice League. So it's hard to then not acknowledge the fact that, well, if you take out all the sort of things that Joss is adding, and we get to sort of, which we all agreed, everyone on Bravo, we all have agreed, well, let's respect the artist and let him finish it. Even that alone, in theory, I guess, does fix it enough. And I didn't hear enough negative reasons as why it wouldn't, that I got to declare Alpha Team the winners of this title bout. Congratulations, Uche, Ryan. That was a very good. Sam, Adon, thank you for trying. It was close, and I think it was just a really good conversation just to talk about in general anyway.
Yeah.
So thank you all for doing it. As for the comments as they're coming in, it looks like, it's a good smattering of both, but Bravo, Alpha, Bravo, Alpha, 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 Bravo, Bravo, Alpha, Alpha. It's a pretty much an Alpha, but a lot of Bravo showed up at the end. Some people trying to duplicate their votes. But I think it really is clearly showing it's a divided fandom, right? It's people who either don't like it, and if they don't like it, there's nothing that can help. And the people who just love this world that Zack has built, I think that is clearly they want more of it. So it makes sense where that's coming from. But I think based on that fight, congrats, Uche, Ryan, you got it. Now, time for a bonus round. You do have a shot to win still, Bravo. I've pulled 2 movies out. I suspect this actually might be easier, so you might want. I think you're all going to want to pick one movie, but we're going to do a coin flip. I'm going to winners. Uche, Ryan, you get to call heads or tails. Heads or tails.
Heads.
Tails. Okay. So Sam, you get to pick the movie. The question here, I'm going to throw up 2 movies, and you guys have to decide which one do we keep and which one do we remove from all existence, okay? First off, thank you for the Super Chat. Ninja Freak, great discussion. This was a tough fight for Uche. He made compelling points, but I think he needed a KO and didn't get it. Ouch! Well, he got the knockout at the end of the day, so Ninja Freak, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a TKO. TKO.
I got TKO, sure. All right, so Sam, since you won the coin toss, I'm going to pick up 2 Blu-rays. Which do you keep and which do you wipe out from existence? Fitting for today, we have Batman versus Superman, the ultimate cut, and The Force Awakens. Which one do you wipe out and start over from existence? Sam, what would you like to pick?
I would like to throw away forever Batman v Superman.
Wow, you son of a...
Perfect.
So Ryan and Uche, you have to defend the Force.
You would rather keep The Force Awakens?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You would rather have a bridge to nowhere.
Oh, wait, so you're... Oh, sorry. I was going to say. So Sam, you're defending Force Awakens, and Uche and Ryan, you're defending Batman v Superman. Okay, great. Which one are we going to... Cool. Don, you will join Sam here. I'll let you hold it. You guys are defending this one.
The Force is strong.
You guys are fighting BVS. Let's do this. It's going to be a quicker fight, but I'll allow Sam. You pick first. Go ahead. Why are we wiping out Batman v Superman over Force Awakens?
Batman v Superman was a massive disappointment for a lot of people. I think considering the scope with Batman and actually like the filmic history of Batman, we've had so many great examples of how you do Batman as a character. The huge response from Batman v Superman was that Batman was some sort of strange psychopath. We've obviously got the infamous Martha scene. And I think, in years to come, it's not going to be a film that people particularly remember with any warmth. And I think actually, like, history will do the job for me. I think the film will be wiped out just because it's not very rewatchable. It's very bland and slow. And if you're a fan of Zack Snyder's stuff and you're a fan of the direction of this film, you probably will hold it dear to you. But the average person, the average consumer, is not really going to care about this film.
All right, Uche, go ahead. What's your why keep BVS over Force Awakens?
Why did you say that name?
Oh, you're not helping your argument. Go in there right away. It's not the scene you want to pull.
Okay, so I'm defending BVS mainly because, let's be real, the warehouse scene in BVS was the greatest scene in any Batman movie that there's ever been. And that alone, that level of originality, that level of true to the comics martial arts skill and brutality is far more desirable than a copy and paste, run-of-the-mill, no originality, complete disrespect of everything that is embodied in the galaxy of Star Wars mess that The Force Awakens was. The Mary Sue of Rey and the ability to control the Force on levels that not even Yoda himself can control boggles the mind. The simple fact that she can pilot the Millennium Falcon with ease in ways that Chewie and Han have never been able to do as a combo is quite disturbing.
That's
false.
And when you look at that and compare it to a movie that has given us Ben Affleck as a true to vision Bruce Wayne Batman, how could you in any way think that movie deserves to exist? Batman has killed people since 1939, good sir. In his second comic of Detective Comics, he murdered a mob boss. He murdered a mob boss.
A hallucination.
Batman has killed. Batman killed the Joker in 1989. Batman kills armed thugs in almost every part of the Dark Knight trilogy. So let's not sit here and act like Batman is some kind of saint. We all know Batman is brutal justice, and sometimes a motherfucker might get blown up. That's just what happens.
Yeah. So and branding the villains, Batman never branded.
Yeah, why not? Why not? He's Batman. He's a vigilante.
So you're saying it's okay to be above the law?
He is above the law.
That's literally what he is.
Let's be honest about this. Like the whole fact about like.
I want to make an argument for Force Awakens because I feel
let's talk
I feel
about
like
Force
we
Awakens
haven't
here.
argued for Force Awakens.
You had an opportunity to give your reasons why. Now I'm giving the people the real reasons as to why you like that BVS over a movie like Force Awakens.
Well, all right, hold on. You can't go on forever. This is a speed run. I want you both to give me this point. Which one is better to cancel and restart? That's really the most important thing to sort of win this debate.
Well, they are canceling Batman and restarting it.
The one you cut is restart. You're doing better. So Force Awakens, BVS, which is worthy of the reboot, the restart? Go ahead.
You tell me anyone sorry.
Who's starting this? Me? Okay, I'll start it. So if we're going to talk about who needs to be rebooted, let's be honest here. Look, the DCEU is done for all intended purposes.
They've rebooted it, yeah.
But as far as what movie, if you're going to reboot a series,
are you making Sam's point for him?
I'm going to say,
continue.
Sounds like he is.
In today's world where we live at right now, it's been rebooted. That ship has sailed. We all know that. But Force Awakens, The Last Jedi, and now what's about to be the crescendo of all dumpster fires, Rise of Skywalker. If you can give me 3 reasons as to why these 3 films deserve to exist over BVS, when BVS gave us the warehouse scene, at least tell me.
We're not saying 3 films. We're saying 1. But you made the argument in the last segment as to why we want to reboot DCU with the Zack Snyder, and you even admitted that like. I would love to see a better version of Batman versus Superman. I got the director's cut, but let's give him.
Wait.
When everybody talks,
have more of that.
Yeah.
Don, finish your statement, and then Sam, go ahead.
So both of you have admitted that you would love to see that movie redone without the influence of the studio, right? Oh, you want the studio's involvement? You're shaking your head.
No, Batman vs Superman. You got the Blu-ray. You got the Blu-ray right there. That is the director's cut.
That's director's cut. Perfectly fine. Keep that.
You say
Which
that's the
became
perfect
the best-selling Blu-ray of all time after it came out because people wanted to see that director's cut so badly because of what had happened in the theaters. Now, yeah. So, and I will say, when you look at Batman vs Superman, when you get that director's cut, you get all of that additional. Because that's the thing here. You've just got plain old Force Awakens that was a flash in the pan and then has died. Nobody cares about the sequel trilogy anymore. People still have a love. That's why #release the Snyder Cut, 800,000 retweets around because of that movie that you have right there. Because people wanted to see the continuation.
They're tweeting to redo it all.
No, they want to see the true
Snyder Cut, the true
to redo it because what came out didn't work.
No, because you know as well as I do.
And on top of how many people are retweeting to redo Force? Like they're not. They're saying like let's finish this.
They're saying kill it. They're saying kill it.
Hold on. Let me try and read it. It's a 50-50 of people who want to reboot Star Wars. Let's be fair. I know I have some people here who are not fans of that trilogy. That's fine.
Disagree.
But there are people out there who are fine with it. There are. They are excited for it. But go ahead, Sam. What was your feeling? Why you haven't had a chance to chime in?
After the prequels, The Force Awakens came out, and it was just the re-excitement of Star Wars. It was, to so many people, this is their introduction to Star Wars. This is the new generation of Star Wars fans. Force Awakens might not be the Star Wars film you particularly want, but it's still a good movie. It's still successful, and it's still made a lot of people really happy and excited to jump into a new franchise. The practical effects alone are outstanding. The chase scenes, the action scenes are really copy and paste from what? I mean, if you compare them to the original, New Hope the action scenes aren't nearly as technically impressive. New Hope is dated. New Hope is old. And people complain about Rey being a Mary Ray Sue or whatever. But the thing is that Luke is a flawed character. He's constantly coming out with this hokey dialogue. People put Star Wars and New Hope and the original trilogy on a really high pedestal, and what Force Awakens managed to do was it managed to bring Star Wars back into a focus, and it was such a tough job to do because of the fan base.
Why is that? It was brought back into the focus because there hadn't been a movie in how many years? 15?
If you compare it to the prequels, we know what a reboot of Star Wars.
That's what happens when you drop a movie after 15 years of not being out. That's is heavily followed.
Force Awakens was successful in everything it intended to do, and it's still a really fun film that you can just stick on. It will last for decades.
That's a lie.
It will be a family film for decades. The kids growing up with Force Awakens will show it to their kids. They will remember it with wonder. They are excited. They love these films. Batman v Superman did not excite a new generation of fans. It did not bring in the cultural success of the original comic book films or the comics. It basically just was a disappointment to everyone. And though that version is the director's cut, and I get what you're saying with the Blu-ray and everything, but it still only appeals to a small amount of people compared to Force Awakens. Force Awakens is more culturally important.
What?
Is that wrong?
All right. Sam and Don, I hear you. I know their minds are being blown, but it's fine. I hear what you're saying because I hear. But now, Uche, Ryan, I want to give you a chance. Why is that not correct? Let's be clear. Both of these movies, it actually is an interesting comparison because this was the introduction of Justice League. The BVS was, and Force Awakens was the introduction of the new Star Wars characters. Which one really is worthy of rebooting? And I'll be honest, you already are up against the wall because you admitted, which you did, they're already rebooting it. So you're admitting it was a failure. So
no, I'm not admitting it was a failure.
Jedi aside, Last Jedi, we're not talking Last Jedi. We're talking Force Awakens. If Force Awakens could have... If Last Jedi was here, I think we wouldn't have a fight. But my point is, why are you saying...
I would have.
You would have fought
I
for
would've.
Last Jedi?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I would've.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I would have fought.
Sure,
I
go ahead.
wouldn't have fought for Last Jedi, but I would have had a problem with Force Awakens because I'm still, even after Force Awakens, now after another movie, I still don't understand what the hell the First Order is. I still don't understand what the hell the Resistance is. There was no world building. You didn't, like, I don't understand how this thing blew up 5 planets and everybody witnessed it in live time. I don't understand why Leia, instead of hugging Chewbacca, Leia hugs Rey. Are you
Star Wars
kidding?
is dumb, man. Star Wars has always been dumb.
No.
That's your
no.
argument. That's your argument.
It's not
Star Wars has always been dumb. Star Wars has always been dumb.
Can't
Okay,
reboot
snap
Star
that
Wars
shit out of
intellectual
existence.
science fiction.
I want to see.
you know.
I want to see the director's cut of Superman. I want to see the entire Africa scene showing exactly how they set everything up so Superman was framed there. I want to see the witness testifying to show that Lex Luthor was paying the witness to testify to lie to make it seem like Superman had done this. I want to see Clark Kent investigating the Batman so you understand that Lex is literally planting all these crumbs along the way to lead Clark and Bruce Wayne to this eventual battle. Because Doomsday, that was his freaking backup plan. He wanted those two guys to kill each other, and it came so close to happening.
All right,
Bruce
I got to
Wayne,
show cards. Why didn't I care then? Why didn't I care that my two favorite superheroes? Please help me, because I genuinely wanted to care. Those are my two favorite superheroes, and they
That's
literally.
up to you.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it wasn't as good as it should have been.
And Andy was
Why didn't I
right,
care
because
about
the majority of people didn't.
Okay,
care.
so are you
Why
talking
didn't I-
about?
why
Are
they
you
are
talking about?
rebooting it.
Are you talking about when you went into the theater and watched the movie? Why didn't you care?
Yeah, I mean,
Because you were watching a movie that was chopped apart and switched around.
No,
there are scenes in the original. There are scenes
I saw
in.
this cut. I saw this cut.
Okay.
And it was the same
But
problem.
but your first
The
impression
snooze
was
fest.
already made, right? Your first impression was
you're
already
right.
made.
You
for
are
you.
right. There were good Batman scenes. We're all agreeing on that. No one's disagreeing with that. But the difference was, and I've been mean on Man. I'm showing my cards now because I got to make a verdict because this wasn't supposed to be as long, but it's fascinating. I didn't like Man of Steel when it came out, but over time I've grown to respect it
Gotten
more.
better and better,
especially as I've seen. Okay. Sort of how Marvel has done the same thing over and over again. I applaud the vision. I didn't see it. It was more ahead of its time, and I can admit I was wrong, and I can see some things in Man of Steel that were interesting. But again, it's a personal preference, right? Because it's not my Superman. It's clearly a lot of people's Superman, but it's not mine. If he had saved people's lives during Zod's meltdown, it would have made the movie 10 times better for me. Instead, it was
Why?
a CGI fist, and he's not
Why?
saving anybody.
This is a Superman whose first day as Superman,
So
he
yeah,
has
my
to
point
save
is-
the world.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying the conflict's even greater. Is he's got to do that same scene? Oh, but there's a kid in the building that they're destroying. How does he do that? Because that's serious mental fuckery, right?
he literally
Superman.
can't. He literally
He can't. That's the dilemma that he deals with in BVS as well, is the fact that he cannot save everybody. The same thing that happened in the Superman comic book. What was it? I forget the name of the comic where Superman literally tries to solve every problem in the world by himself. And he realizes that even with all this power, even with all of this godlike ability, I can't stop the problems of the world, that I can't save
I love
everybody.
what you're saying, but I didn't personally get that from BVS at all. I didn't. So my point is that's why, right? So the problem is once they then introduced Batman, which they did a good job, and they're sort of putting Batman versus Superman together, and then they immediately kill Superman. What? It was a rush job to sort of put the characters together. So my point is, and that's where I'm struggling.
I actually think the characters being put together was actually done pretty organically, outside of the shoehorned in Justice League references with Cyborg,
Yes, agreed.
Aquaman.
Yeah, agreed.
Outside of that, I felt like the Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman dynamic was organic. I felt like it fit together well. Wonder Woman re-emerged as a hero in the world because of the threat that they were facing, and I felt like it worked. I felt like they worked together as they battled Doomsday, even for the fact that he did kill Superman, and that may not be something that is, I mean, honestly, I'm ho-hum about it. I felt like it could have come later, and it would have had more impact. I'm fine with that. But I also think that the way that they worked, the dynamic they show, left a lot of anticipation towards seeing another chapter of that, because you could already see the makings of the core Justice League with those three characters, because they're the holy trinity of comic books.
See,
I mean, that's how it is.
Justice League, they killed off one of them, And
But you knew Superman was coming back.
well,
Everybody knows
we all
that.
did. We read the comics. We know, and that's how come like that. It's like death doesn't exist in comics because of Superman coming back. But the fact of the matter is, we got what was substantially a decent story that was coming out when the movie came out, and we had to wait for the director's cut for that. Then, and at the end, even with the director's cut, we still got Martha.
Dude, if you know what, it's a shame that people
that part.
It's a shame that has to be explained to people in theaters. Yeah. It's a shame that has to be explained.
No, wait. Nothing needs to be explained. Martha made total sense. It was just laughable.
It was
why? Why was it laughable?
Because
this is a Batman who has been
cheesy moment that took out all of the emotional
How is
weight.
it cheesy? How is it any cheesier than Iron Man finding out?
Exactly.
Who would talk about their mother's name in a moment like that? Nobody.
That was a trigger. All that was a trigger.
I'm a
all the name was a trigger.
And I know exactly who they meant. Well, as soon as it's like, Martha, save Martha.
No, dude. See, that's again, you don't understand the actual message and the metaphor that's being delivered in that scene.
There's a metaphor.
Yes. If you're paying attention to Batman earlier in the movie, when he's at Wayne Manor, his new Wayne Manor that's on the lake, he wakes up. He grabs a medicine bottle. He pops a bunch of pills. He takes a big chug out of a wine glass. This is a Batman that's suffering from PTSD. And because of his mother's death. That's a scar that's been with him his entire life. Martha is alluded to 3 or 4 times in the movie to set you up to understand that. And when it happens and he actually has that trigger moment, he loses his shit. And his first instinct is to raise up or is to basically lash out at Clark.
Here's the problem. We're spending all this time explaining the movie.
You're spending a lot of time trying to defend
why people didn't get it.
Because
that's why I'm not trying. I showed my cards because I was going to wrap it up earlier, but the conversation was so interesting. My problem is this guy. You lost the fight, Uche, when you admitted that the movie was already needs to be rebooted. So
I never said it needed to be rebooted. I said it's already been.
That's a fact. That is just a fact.
You said it. You said it at the beginning of the fight. So why not just turn it into a fun discussion about the movie?
You said it's being rebooted. Like that's just a fact.
It's already essentially been rebooted. It's already. And I'm talking past tense. We're talking about from our perception. How do we see what would we pick to keep in existence? And I just made a point on what was a fact. The DCEU has already turned course to move a different direction. It's essentially done a reboot. That's not to say that I'm conceding anything at all. Well, I'm just simply stating the fact.
No, that's a fair fact. But
I just want to just have a closing statement on this and just say Batman v Superman is not the best Batman movie, not the best Superman film, and it's actually not even the best film where Batman fights Superman because we've got Batman Returns, Frank Miller animated movie, a lot better. It's a lot better movie. Then we've got Force Awakens, which is modern Star Wars. Their intention of that was to reboot New Hope. That was their intention.
By copying New Hope.
And it worked.
By retrenching New Hope.
It was popular and successful.
And people actually figured it out about a month later and were like, this is garbage.
It's a great spectacle film. It's an action-adventure film set in a sci-fi world. It's got amazing production design. It's got amazing technical.
They've got $1 trillion. You can make points off of.
There is no other film. If Force Awakens was erased from existence, the only modern Star Wars film which pays homage to the original trilogy is
give me 2 instances where it pays homage to A New Hope. Give me 2 instances.
Han is in it. Han Solo is in it. That's homage to the original trilogy.
That's homage. Do you understand what that word means then? Because it's not what you just described by saying that Han being in the movie is homage.
It's a blatant copy of A New Hope. It's the same movie as
I don't think you could argue that it's the exact same movie.
For a reason. Now,
that's what I'm saying. To be fair, I've called out Batman v Superman, so I'm going to call out Force Awakens now because they're both got problems. Force Awakens is a copycat version of A New Hope, hands down.
I disagree. Entirely.
Why?
Because it's got entirely different characters to it. It's got better characters than New Hope, I would say. Actually,
I need to hear why on that one. Why are they better?
You gotta do better than that.
No, it does. It does. It's got an entirely
something to you.
It's got an entirely different first act.
Do you know what George Lucas said when he saw The Force Awakens?
Oh, well, do you know what George Lucas said when he was doing
Y'all betrayed me.
prequel movies?
Y'all betrayed me because this is not Star Wars.
George Lucas
That's what
not.
George Lucas said.
George Lucas can't say what Star Wars is after making those 3 terrible prequel movies.
You know what?
He's not got the right to even stand.
Wow, Star Wars has
So
always
it's turned
been
into
done.
Star Wars versus DC. It's not my
The
idea.
best Star Wars movie isn't even written or directed by George Lucas. Empire Strikes Back is not got George Lucas involved in it.
I was going to say that Revenge of the Sith is the 3rd best Star Wars movie of all of them.
Well, you're wrong.
What?
New Hope, Empire Strikes Back. Well, A New Hope by default, Empire Strikes Back, and I go with Revenge of the Sith as the 3rd best one.
All right. Well, we're not debating our
That's
order
an
of the movies.
absolute.
That's not the fight. Because I know people are having fun. We're doing this, but I'm trying to just keep the reins in of sort of the fight of itself, which is which one of these movies is better erased. Let's do that one. Because I think we're having struggle with what's better. Which one does a better job erasing it? And so far, I'll be honest. I've heard you basically said, well, the Batman fight is what makes this worth it. Is all you said. But Sam did pull out the fact that, yes, practical effects sets up the characters. It was actually well received. It was. You can hate it all you want, but it was well received. But Last Jedi, let's be honest, is where people started going, well, wait a second, where's it go? And we don't know how it's going to end. So in theory, we might just change our mind when Rise of Skywalker comes out and say it was all a mess. But as of right now, on November, whatever it is, in 2019, it hasn't happened yet. And I think it's fair for Sam to say it was well received. And it had good practical effects, and it was a good start of
Does that mean it deserves to be?
Started a new generation of Star Wars fans.
And you, Uche, did
it
say
hasn't.
Batman v Superman has already been rebooted. So my
What about what I said?
No, that's not what I said.
Well, sorry, what did you say? Let me clarify, because that's what I heard.
What I said was, we all know at this point, right now, that the DCEU is already essentially rebooted. That is not a knock against BVS the movie at all. That is just a simple fact as to the environment that the DCEU is currently in. As far as BVS deserves to exist over The Force Awakens because it gives you at least its own unique take on the characters and its own unique story to tell that is not the same as any story you've seen before. We know what The Force Awakens is. And if The Force Awakens doesn't exist, then The Last Jedi doesn't exist, and there's still hope for Star Wars. And if you're a Star Wars fan, that is enough reason to make sure to wipe The Force Awakens from existence by itself, is that you don't get The Last Jedi if you get rid of The Force Awakens.
I like The Last Jedi. I was
You're making the same argument for me. If you nix the Batman versus Superman, then we won't have Justice League. The whole argument of the last fight.
True. If you don't fire Zack Snyder, then you would have had a Justice League, and you wouldn't have the Justice League we have. You'd have a different Justice League.
People, the audience. Let's be clear. The audience changed Justice League. The audience was so vocal. A lot of them were, right or wrong.
That's why they came
Warner Brothers changed Justice League. They should take 100% of the responsibility. It's not the audience's fault. Zack Snyder was hired to make a product. They should have believed in him.
Yep.
They should have believed in him. You should never do that to a filmmaker, no matter what the audience market is.
My point is, you're 100% right. Just to clarify,
why BTS should exist.
But you're absolutely right. But my point is, the studio did it because of audience feedback. That doesn't mean they should have done it, and the audience is to blame. It just means the studio's reacting to audience saying, "Well, wait a second, they don't like our movie. We have to just change it. Bring in Joss Whedon. They liked his movie." And we're all agreeing they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
because I think the critics. I think at that point, a site like Rotten Tomatoes had heavy influence back in that time about for movies and how movies did in the market. And like I said, with the atmosphere of 10 MCU movies prior to BVS coming out, there was already a bar that was set at how a comic book movie should look, act, and feel. And BVS did not follow that trend. So the critics destroyed it. And now we know a ton more about where those critics' alliances really lied with companies like Disney that gave them access and allowed for them to manipulate the rating systems of Rotten Tomatoes to the point where now it's an utter joke that Rotten Tomatoes even still exists itself. So maybe we should just get rid of Rotten Tomatoes. Fuck it.
That's a good later fight.
Man of Steel was a very different superhero film. But
it was a more serious
Man of Steel did not conform to the MCU films, but it did not get nearly as much backlash as Batman v Superman.
True.
Batman v Superman is a film that failed to connect with audiences. That is just a fact. The director's cut fails to connect with audiences in the same way. It might be slightly better, it might be a tiny bit better, it might make sense, but it's still not a film that really is going to connect with people in the same way that Force Awakens does. If you reboot and remake Force Awakens, you're going down a completely different path of Star Wars. You're saying, let's do something completely new, let's do something entirely different. Force Awakens was never about that. Force Awakens was about bringing it back, was about reinvigorating the series, reminding us why we like Star Wars, why we like to see Star Wars. It's a fun action-adventure film set in a space world. It's not. It's for New Hope is based on like some old serials. It's got standard.
It's based on the hero's journey, which is a traditional Greek style of storytelling, and that is something that is proven to be
a similar pattern. But that's just them reinterpreting New Hope for modern audiences, which is what Force Awakens was about. If you remake Force Awakens, you're going down a completely different path. What they intended to do as filmmakers was successful. And if you want to watch a modern Star Wars film, Force Awakens is exactly what you want. If you want to watch... No. Revenge of the Sith is hated by a lot of people.
No, it's not. If
I take,
don't go down that road.
All right, so watch Revenge of the Sith, they are not going to vibe with it nearly as much as Force Awakens. Force Awakens is a
actually agreeing with us that in the sense that he's giving us the fact that he says we're following the recipe of success. They're giving us a tradition of like. We know the path, we know the plan. Star Wars Force Awakens adheres to that path. We've seen it in A New Hope. We know what works. This is the storyline of it. Batman versus Superman did not give us that in that sense, and we definitely
they failed as filmmakers in terms of what they wanted to achieve.
All right. I'm going to let you each have. Yeah, Ryan, I'm going to let you have the last word, but hold on, commenters, I need to hear this because now You were winning, Sam, and then you said that Force Awakens wasn't a retread of A New Hope, and that really set you back a couple steps.
You also said Star Wars has always been dumb.
I didn't say it wasn't a retread of New Hope.
I just said
I understand what he was trying to say with dumb. It's like it's for kids. That doesn't mean it's dumb. It was a.
No, I didn't say it's for kids. I said that Star Wars is not a film that is for intellectuals. It's a fun action-adventure film. That's fine. Star Wars doesn't need to have everything make sense in it. It doesn't need to be a film that BTS is going for a more pretentious, serious adult vibe. Star Wars is going for fun, action, adventure. It's going for comedy, and it's going for likable characters that you want to succeed in their goals. It's going for vast science fiction landscape. It's going for fun costumes. Exciting
the story is already told and has already been hailed and is going almost verbatim against the wishes of the creator who gave them the path of the story.
Lucas doesn't get a say in Star Wars anymore.
He doesn't get a say. You're right, but at the same time, it was unoriginal. And what is being creative if you're not being unoriginal?
There's loads of original aspects of Force Awakens. There's tons of original aspects of Force Awakens. Okay, so her being a scavenger, where's that in New Hope?
Okay, she's on a desert planet. She's making her way by scavenging and doing what else?
Yeah, that's different to Luke. Luke's in a desert planet.
Who was on a desert planet.
He's not a scavenger. His way. I've never seen a scavenger in Star Wars before. That's an original idea.
Okay, so you're talking about the job that she had was different than the job that he had.
So Finn is a clone trooper. He takes off his helmet. He feels guilty. That's an original idea. They didn't do that in the original series.
Who feels guilty?
Finn. He's a stormtrooper.
Oh, you're talking about Finn, the stormtrooper who doesn't have a problem who has a problem with killing people in a village, but doesn't have a problem with shooting down people that he worked with his entire life.
We're arguing about original ideas here. It's an original
idea. He's a coward. He's playing the coward role.
I dare say Finn is a survivalist.
So you're saying he's the equivalent of C-3PO?
C-3PO is not the coward role in the movie in the Song of Star Wars. C-3PO is the comic relief of Star Wars.
Who's the coward in the original Star Wars? Who is Finn copying?
Han's the original coward in the
So
original
Finn,
War.
Really?
Yes, Han is the one who's running from debt. Han is the one who's running from.
so you're saying that I thought Poe
the
was an
Empire.
archetype of Han.
No, not at all. What? Poe is no. That's not close.
Okay,
Finn,
so you're saying there's no original aspects of Force Awakens, but
There's
like
not-
I'm already telling you ideas that have not been done in the original trilogies.
Okay, so you have the scavenger and the farm boy who both live on desert planets by happenstance.
They've got similarities, but I've never seen a scavenger in the original trilogy. I've never seen a clone trooper be elaborated on. And if I go through the film, there's so many different scenes. If you look at it on a scene-by-scene basis, the scenes are going for different things. If you look at it in terms of character motivations, they are different. You know, in terms of the plot, the structure of the plot,
the feeling and the yearning of something greater, of a bigger destiny. The same thing that Luke has, the same thing that Rey has.
That is Star Wars. That's what Star Wars is supposed to make us feel.
Yeah, they did it with The New Hope, and they continued
They were playing it safe with Force Awakens because they had to. But like, Force Awakens is not a bad film because it plays it safe. Force Awakens is a film that people enjoy, and is a film that everyone liked when it came out.
All right. We're going in circles.
Already forgotten,
Sam,
and they're already rebooting it.
I'm gonna back Sam up on this. He's what he's saying is truth. The audience and the reaction of the studios, everybody, Force Awakens was better received than BVS. Let's not repeat that. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Anybody wants to argue that, I think is unfair because
talking about it was better received.
It was better received
from a critical standpoint. Yes.
Yes.
And
so they continue to go, and I think we all agree, or maybe we don't. But Last Jedi clearly stumbled them, and that's where things got south. But all right, I'm gonna get because I'm seeing the comments, and it's you guys are it's back and forth. It's about 50-50. So I'm gonna give Ryan. I know you didn't really get a chance. I'm gonna let you and Adon have closing arguments here to see if you can help sway me one way or the other. Again, why am I erasing one or the other? Why is BVS worth keeping over Force Awakens, etc.? Ryan, go ahead, and then Adon, you'll end us.
Absolutely, and this won't be long. So, basically, when you look at the trajectory of both of these films right now, Force Awakens was surrounded by so much hype, and people went to see it just like they went to see The Phantom Menace, which made $1 billion in theaters. People went to see it, and they were excited about Star Wars. It was so well marketed by the mass media conglomerate that is Disney, and it made a ton of money. But as time goes on, people are caring less and less about The Force Awakens. You can see that. That's not the same with the original trilogy. And I know Sam's trying to make these comparisons here, but that's never going to be the way of the original trilogy. That is always going to sustain. People don't care about The Force Awakens anymore. They don't care about the sequel trilogy anymore. It wasn't just because TLJ was bad. TLJ just exposed a lot of the problems and a lot of the lack of world building and character development in Force Awakens. When you look at Batman vs. Superman, the reason we're all here today is because #release the Snyder Cut was trending worldwide. It was trending all week, first of all, and then just Sunday is when it absolutely went crazy, went over 800,000 tweets for #release the Snyder Cut. That is because of that movie that you have in your hands right there, that director's cut of Batman vs. Superman. People want to release the Snyder Cut because of what they feel for that movie and that vision going forward. And as time has gone by, people are loving that thing that you have in your hands more and more. They're appreciating it more and more. People are coming around to it because it means something. It has meaning in the stories that it tells and the character development that it has. And that's why people want to see more. The Force Awakens, people are ready to be done with the sequel trilogy. That's pretty much all I got to say on that.
All right, Adon, you want to help close out at Sam? Can help Sam there? Why is Force Awakens the better keep?
So here's the thing. People aren't, in this argument, we're not talking about the trilogies. We're not talking about the upcoming films. We're talking about the movie itself. When Batman vs. Superman came out, people wanted more. They wanted it to be improved. And then the reason it got popular was because we did the Ultimate Cut and the Ultimate Edition. And we even talked about it right now. Even after the Ultimate Edition, we would love to see more. We would love to see it redone and edit it and put in more scenes and clean it up. In regards to Force Awakens, I watched it. I was content. I was happy with it in the theaters. I never asked the question like, I would love to see this redone. And I actually still wanted to see what was coming up next. I'm not even going to bring in like what happened after Last Jedi came out, because that's not the factor here. The factor is, when I watched this movie, I didn't go, I want to see this re-edited. I want to see more scenes put in place. I still want to see more scenes put in place in Batman vs. Superman. And now that we're talking about the Zack Snyder cut, let's bring that in of the Justice League. I want synergy. I want things to be tied in together to flow better. That's going to happen if I redo the Batman versus Superman, because it's going to flow better into Justice League and the rest of the universe. I want that synergy of that. Force Awakens, I could have watched that and been done as a movie and been like, okay, they gave me a little bit of a bait here. Batman versus Superman, when it ended, I was like, what just happened? Why am I getting this? Even with the Ultimate Edition, I still want more. That's what we want.
You want more BVC?
I want it to be redone.
Yeah, he wants more. He wants more of it.
He clarified. He wants it to be.
He felt unsatisfied.
Yeah, he was unsatisfied and wanted it better.
Gotcha.
Whereas you're saying at the end of Force Awakens, you didn't want.
I was happy with the movie, and I did not say I wanted more. I wanted to go and re-edit this.
Uche and Ryan, be honest. Were you disappointed at the end of BVS at all?
No.
Really?
No. I'm dead ass. I went and watched look, man. I got invited to an early screening of BVS, and I was literally at the beginning of the fight scene between Batman and Superman. I was hoping there was another hour at least of the movie. I was checking my watch, like, man, I hope it's not close to the end, because this shit is dope. Like, I enjoyed the theatrical cut, but as I learned how the movie was basically chopped up and rearranged, and 30 minutes was pulled out. And they promised Zack Snyder that they would give him an ultimate cut if he would just allow them to cut the movie down by 30 minutes. That's when I realized that the actual true vision of the movie was going to be the ultimate cut. When I saw the ultimate cut, I was totally satisfied. I was satisfied with the original cut, although I didn't think it was perfect. But I was still satisfied. I was still entertained. When I saw the ultimate cut, I understood that it was a great movie, in my opinion. Force Awakens, I watched The Force Awakens, and I had no desire whatsoever to see it again. I don't think I've seen it twice, to be honest. I think I've seen Force Awakens one time as a total. I've seen BVS maybe 12 times.
I think their argument is that they just want a different Star Wars film, whereas our argument is that we want Batman v Superman pretty much the same as what we saw in the film, just redone a bit better, so it's not so dull,
so it deserves to exist more. Boom.
Well, no, I'm saying that's the Star Wars product, The Force Awakens. This is not a film that you guys personally enjoy, but it is a film that works in terms of what it set out to do. Batman v Superman did not.
What did it set out to do? I want you to explain to me, what did The Force Awakens set out to do outside of providing a nostalgia trip?
I'm going to answer for him, because he almost just shot himself in the foot, but then he saved himself at the end, because I think it does come down to the fact that it did work for a lot of people. It was more commercially successful. People, I know not everyone likes it.
Because it's Star Wars, or because it was a good movie?
I don't like either of them that much, to be honest, but leaving both of them, I was more disappointed with BVS, and I think others were as well. And not to take my own feelings, and it's hard to not in this one, but I am trying to step out of it, because you did make some really strong points there at the end. But I think ultimately, ding, 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 to wrap this up, I think ultimately, we're based off the arguments, Sam put himself foot in a couple times there, but he just sort of reiterated it. Like, BVS needed to be fixed. We've all sort of acknowledged that. So it would have been nice to refix it. Whereas Force Awakens, you just didn't like it. And that's fair. But a lot of people did, which we also acknowledge. So those are where I'm sort of stuck in the argument of trying to find a winner here is BVS clearly, even theatrical. Yeah, well, even theatrical, you said they needed to put the ultimate cut in to fix the movie. So again,
but you have the ultimate cut in your hands, though, right? We're talking about the Blu-ray.
Didn't fix it to a lot of people.
I don't think it fixed it for everybody, but it fixed. It gave you more of what you wanted, right? Because you said you liked it, and then you wanted more, and it worked. So again, this isn't a knock to you guys or the movies. I think based off those arguments and what you guys sort of gave into, I do have to give Sam that point. Ding, 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 ding. Which puts us at a super long, way too long episode. So I have to do it immediately. No one's won yet. We're doing a tiebreaker, and I keep this fun. We're going to do who's the best, all right? I have two figures here, and we're going to keep this fun. And since you got the coin toss last time, actually, to be fair, we got to do the same thing, because it's got to be the same. Sam, you get to call it this time. Heads or tails?
Tails.
It's heads. So, Uche, you get to pick this time the character first. The next question is going to be, who is the best? I've picked out 2 toys from my toy box here, and you guys have to determine who's the best. Who would be the best? What did we say? Roommate? Did we settle?
Roommate, or was it best man?
Best man. Thank you. Who would be the better best man? Finn or Poe?
Golly.
Yeah!
Golly.
You got to really prove your debate skills here.
Or would they be
Who do you
groom
want
and
to be your
groom?
best man? Who do you want to be your best man? You get to pick first, Uche. You want to defend Finn or Poe?
God, 2 characters that I don't give a damn about. Look,
I'm gonna win this one.
I will lean on the side of an entertaining character for what it's worth, for what I can really, it's not entertaining though, but I'll go with Poe.
Okay. All right, wait, wrong one.
Yeah, right.
Uche's got Poe. All right, that means Sam and Adon, you guys have Finn. Boom, boom, boom. All right, Uche, you get to start us off. Again, we're going to keep this one tight because the show's going longer than usual. Why would Poe be the better best man over Finn? Go ahead.
I think Poe would be the better best man over Finn. 1, because he's not a coward, and 2, because he can fly a fighter jet. And what a better way to come to leave your wedding than to have Poe fly you in the fighter jet from the wedding reception.
Wow, good
to
save.
your honeymoon.
Yeah, all right, I like that. Cool. All right, Ryan, you'll be next. But Sam, what do you want to say regarding Finn?
Finn sacrificed himself at the end for not love, not romance, for friends. So, I want a best man who's going to be there for me, who's going to be loyal, who's going to die for me if need be, who's going to stand there and bleed for me. Finn has shown himself to be someone who's willing to die for his friends. Finn's just as charismatic as Poe, can give just as good of a speech, and is also just like a totally sweet guy. Like Poe is a bit snide. He's not as open as Finn is.
He's the guy you get in a fight with at a bar. He's gonna knock somebody out and have your back. Finn is gonna be out the window already.
Good for you. You don't want your best man to start fights.
No, he's gonna have to fight.
It's true. You don't want the best man to start a fight at the wedding.
He's gonna finish it.
Ryan, all right, Ryan, go ahead. You're now back to Ryan and Don. Let's close this out. Anything you'd like to add is for Poe being the better best man?
Absolutely. So Uche brought up some absolutely great. Once you're gonna run in there flying that X-wing, looking good, you know what Finn would say? He'd be like, "I need a pilot." That's what Finn would say. But you got Poe. He's a sweet guy too. He's gonna give you the literal shirt off his back, even if you think he's dead and you stole it. Whatever. He's still gonna be okay with you having that. And then we know, just like he did with Holdo, my man Poe is always about bros before hoes. That's what I'm about. That's what I want in my best man, having my back all the time. So it's not even really a question. It's absolutely 100% Poe Dameron.
I mean, Finn can't even die right.
All right, Adon, take us home. Why is Finn the better best man?
Okay, so Finn is better than Poe because Poe is, as you say, he's a rogue. He's a guy who does things on his own book and
Unreliable.
Poe is he's not reliable. That's the issue. The whole second movie was
unreliable, yes.
The fact that he's not reliable, and what you need in the best man is someone who is reliable.
He probably won't
So
even
he's
turn
trying to
up.
sneak off on the escape pod. Yeah.
But let's put in the fact of Finn is that guy. He's gonna try to survive whatever way he can, but the fact of the matter is he's gonna be there for his friends, and he's a problem solver. You put him in a bind, he's gonna try to resolve the situation in a smart way, and that's why they in the second movie they focus on him and his resolution on it. Poe is not that smart guy. He's that guy that you said he'll get in a fight and go on there. Finn won't get you in the fight. You won't be showing up to your wedding with a black eye.
Poe won't
Nah, he don't get us in no fight. He gonna help us finish the fight.
Poe would just turn up on the day,
Poe
completely
wants to know what the
unprepared.
plan is.
Finn would spend
It's true. It's
days
show up.
planning.
Yeah.
And to be fair, if you show up with Finn, you are showing up with a black eye. Just saying. Just
You're
saying.
not going to show up with a black eye.
I need somebody to talk to the
Let's get out of
cops.
here. We're not going to be stuck in this.
It's too rowdy.
Oh man, all right. I was going to leave, but Sam made a really good point. Poe would show up. Finn would be prepared with the speech, everything else.
Finn was like
Finn was a janitor.
Wait.
He was a janitor.
Wait. All right, I heard y'all your thoughts.
Classic.
There's a little bit to it, but Ding, that was fun. Thank you. Who's the best is always a fun tiebreaker. You got me. You guys got me. When you're right, Finn would go ask, "Where do I get the plane?" Whereas Poe would go find the plane. That really stuck with me. Finn would, and you do want a little bit of that. And bros before hoes.
Yes.
While I do believe Finn would die for you, he'd ask too many questions. He'd be, what's going on? What do I do here? What do I do? He'd prepare when you gave him a task, but he's like one of those guys you'd have to like, all right, we need you to go do this, and this. And he'd be like, okay. Whereas Poe's would be like, I did it all. I got it all done. I got that guy to do it.
Poe wouldn't even approve of your partner.
That's fair. Well, what was I
Ding,
going to say?
ding.
Jody
Who
said
destroyed Star Killer Base?
Jody's Corner, shout out. Finn would want to know how cute the groom is. Yeah, I mean, you don't never know. They both.
I think they both would.
Groom.
Nothing wrong with that. But anyway, I got to give Team Alpha the win. Slight edge.
Well
ding.
done,
That was a beautiful fight.
Great
Bravo
fight.
to
Great
everyone.
fight.
Thank you so much to everybody in the
Good
comments.
job.
That was a lot of fun. That went a little longer than I thought, but I thought all worth it. I hope you guys enjoyed it at home as well. I got to give special shout outs to all these amazing fighters, all of which I hope you all come back. I hope you guys had a blast. I hope you felt that this was a fair fight. Thank you so much for coming by. Let's go give some plugs. Starting over Ryan Kinel, over RK Outpost. The link to his YouTube channel is in my description there. Anything else you want to send out there, Ryan?
No, just thanks for having me on, Andy. It's awesome. You can catch me on my channel, Ryan Kinel, RK Outpost. You can catch me on Geeks and Gamers, catch me on Sports Wars, talking Star Wars, comics, pop culture, whatever. But awesome being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I love it, Ryan. Thank you so much for coming. And then we got over on your side, Uche, where can people find you? The link to your channel is in the description. Anything else you want to send places?
Again, I just want to say I had a great time. Had a great time discussing these numerous topics with you guys. You can catch me on the Observant Lineman, but my channel, just search my name, it'll pop right up. But I'm also on Geeks and Gamers, also on Sports Wars. So just really glad that you had us on, and really looking forward to coming back on again sometime.
Yeah, anytime. You guys were a lot of fun. And then Sam Jones, you were up against the wall, but you delivered. I loved it. You were rolling blunts throughout the show. I mean, you were just owning
No, those are cigarettes.
whatever it was. It's legal
In England, we roll cigarettes. We don't.
Either way, you look like a badass doing it. But thank you so much for coming. Your videos are a lot of fun. Check out Nitpix over on YouTube. The link is in the description down below. Anything else you'd like to plug?
These guys, thank you guys so much for giving me such a stimulating debate. You guys were really fun to talk to, and
it's awesome,
definitely
man.
check out the stuff.
Same here.
Yeah, it's fun when we
I watched their vids before as well. I was really impressed with them, and thanks guys.
Yeah, it's fun when we can have a civil back and forth. It's not all fandom is toxic. See, it all exists here. We got
Surprise!
both sides. That's why I love the beauty of bringing back the show in this day and age to prove. Fandom menace, geeks and gamers, all these places that people seem to be afraid of. No, let's talk. We can do it. We can have these conversations. So thank you all for doing it. Adon, my buddy Adon over here, go check out Nerd Tots if you guys like D&D. Anything you would like to say, Don?
It's always a blast being here. I'm happy to meet you guys. You had some really good arguments. I'm a little sad I lost, but you know what?
Yeah, well, you know what, man. We were doing good.
It was a great
battle.
Great discussion.
And I want to, Bragger, thanks for a good show, lads. Thank you for the support there. There were a couple others I was trying to get through quickly. Rock Corinne, I'm with Team Alpha. You got a point there, guys. Trying to make sure I didn't miss any of these. I forgot there was a few more. Bunda earlier. Thank you shout out to Ricardo Bunda, our moderator and the mods. Thank you so much. He was talking about how Man of Steel is a beautiful film. I've come around. I got to watch it again. Justice League, not a beautiful film for me. Batman vs. Superman, I got some problems with, but I will come around and apologize. Okay, Man vs. Steel is better than I thought, so there you go. I'm not the DC hater as much as I used to be. But anyway, thank you all for awesome debate. That was really so much fun to watch. Thank you guys. Come back anytime. All of you watching, stay tuned. Next week, we'll have an announcement. YouTube membership is coming. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff that you guys are going to be able to get involved even more than usual with special badges and things that are going to make an exclusive stream. So stay tuned. If this was so long, I'm going to at least stick here with Adon for our little quick after show, which we do currently on Patreon, but soon will be on YouTube in their membership. So stay tuned. Next week, I should have more. Our next episode, which is Thursday, I'll have more announcement. And also, we're now on Spotify. You can listen to your Nerd Wars off of YouTube if you want to listen. I know a lot of you wanted that. We're now on Spotify, hopefully soon on iTunes and other podcast outlets. So lots more brewing. Thank you guys so much for everybody for the support and all the fighters who came on. Have an awesome week, everybody. We'll be back Thursday, 9 p.m. We got an awesome guest. If you guys don't know him, the amazing Lucas. He has a really funny YouTube channel. Really fun personality. We're going to be doing, I think, a Marvel fight finally. He's going to go up against some Marvel stuff. So it's not just DC here. Get ready for a Marvel fight with Amazing Lucas and TBD Fighter on Thursday, 9 p.m. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Have an awesome one. Bye!
Bye.
Woo, woo, woo.
Peace.
And now is the part I try to end. And